fuck out. See ya! If you are a young man under 45, you will kill yourself before you die of any other cause of death. That's because more men under 45 die of suicide than anything else. And I wonder why. Why?
Just got put a name to the technique. There have been a bunch of apps and tools that have been created around this idea.
I'm gonna get in on this. And he was like, he interviewed him. And I was like, fine. So we in. And then walk your Grange. This is the blueprint to becoming a millionaire, and I'm gonna walk you through the levels to becoming one. Level is the fundamentals of wealth creation, and we're gonna start with what even is a millionaire? It's someone whose net worth.
You know, when I started making YouTube videos 3 years ago, I was overcompensating for a dark poison within my life. And I tried to use proxy adventures, like running a marathon or being silent for 10 days, as a way to make up for the fact that I was failing in my life. So this combination, this hurricane, I feel like you can't trust me. I spoke to a friend of mine yesterday who... I was just expelled from my university because of a lack of academic performance. And it's a weird feeling, failing on the thing that everyone knows you for. You know, I was the kid who was intelligent and charismatic, and here I was, failing because of academic performance. And I think about that time in my life, and I remember feeling absolutely purposeless. And at the root of the problem, it was because, like many young boys and young men, I was told that my purpose was found in my productivity. What I produced determined my purpose. I had to get the bag, I had to get the relationship, I had to get the wife and the white picket fence and the career. And what happens when you don't get that? What happens when you don't get any of those things? Well, what happens is you feel purposeless, and so what else is there to do? What else is there to do? And I think many of these young men that I see in memorials who take their own lives get to the point where they produce nothing, and so they have no purpose. And the problem is, even if you find purpose, even if you find purpose in what you produce, there's always more to produce. At the top of every mountain, there is a bigger mountain. You end up on this never-ending rat race wheel of life, chasing a mirage. I think what changed for me was having to establish my purpose in something deeper than my productivity. It was learning to establish my purpose in who I was, in integrity, in honor, in love, in kindness, in grace, in conscientiousness, in the values that I wanted to obtain, and allow productivity to be a byproduct of who I was. And that for me changed everything. My father had 3 girls at the age of 20 and 2 boys at the age of 40. And if there was ever a man who defined their purpose by who they were more than what they produced, it was him. Not because he didn't produce anything, but because he chose to align his life to something deeper than production. And now the things that he produces are beautiful and wonderful and special to him and us. He is a man of ingenuity. A man who can make things from absolutely nothing and turn them into beauty. One of the things that we know him for is giving gifts that are so uniquely crafted to the person that they're gifted to that it blows you away that one could even think of that or create it. He's been a teacher for 45 years. He's been through struggle after struggle financially, having to balance multiple kids while working as a humble teacher. He had my older sister is mentally ill and deaf, and all of these things crafted an ethos within him that led him down the path to become a man that bound his purpose to who he was, not what he produced. And if only as a young man I had seen this, because I got caught in the trap, maybe through the fact that I grew up as a millennial within the culture of social media, that I had to become a man who produced. And I failed on that front and then found myself in a purposeless, worthless state. What if what you do is not enough, and you have tied and bound your purpose to what you produce? Then what's the point? It's no wonder so many young men kill themselves. And I was not only alone and scared, but I had failed on that front, and I had tied my purpose to my productivity and my production, and it forced me to reevaluate everything in my life. And the change that I made was not focusing on what I produce, but focusing on who I was as a man. Who you are as a man is the definition of what it is to be a man. To take on and take action on integrity, honor, love, empathy, kindness, conscientiousness, and allow what you produce to be a byproduct of who you are. Because the fundamental problem is that even if you do produce and you do get the bag or the career or the relationship, what then? There is still more to produce, and the reality is for so many successful people, they get to the pinnacle of the mountain and there is always a bigger mountain behind it. And you hear these stories of billionaires taking their lives or being miserable and unhappy or divorcing their wives or their husbands, fundamentally because they have tied their purpose in production. Instead of allowing it to flow out of them as a byproduct of understanding that purpose is found in character, not consumption. It's found in who you are, not in what you produce. And I think if I was told this and taught this as a young man, I wouldn't have been found in this position where I was depressed, anxious, and failing, and thinking that all of those things defined me as a person. We're all going to make mistakes. That's the reality of being a human being. But again, if you tie your purpose to what you produce and you've failed, then you have no purpose. But if you tie your purpose into who you are as a man, then falling down is a part of life, and your purpose is found in the getting back up. It's in the getting back up, and maybe if we can change this societal framework, we can change a generation, and young men don't have to keep killing themselves. Three years later, after that expulsion, I've now graduated with a Bachelor of Psychology with a near-perfect GPA, going into honours, working as a behaviour clinician at a psychology clinic near my town, making more money than I've ever made. My wife's pregnant, and I'm happy. I'm so at peace with who I am, because that's what I focused on. It's easy for me to sit here and pontificate on what we need to do to help young men, to help them to feel purpose and to stop killing themselves. And though the solution is easy, in practice it's very difficult, because it requires switching an entire perspective and frame of mind on life. What did it for me and what changed for me was understanding that my purpose was not tied to my productivity, but to who I wanted to be as a man. And not in the macro, not in the big things or the big adventures, but the mundane. The small choices we make every single day, that's where we are defining ourselves and our purpose as men. And we use the values of integrity, of honor, of love, of compassion, of empathy, of conscientiousness, of understanding, of excellence within the minutiae, within the mundane. Whether it's cleaning your room, whether it's making your bed, whether it's how you greet the receptionist at your work, those small acts of courage stack up to form a life of character. And it's within the chase of becoming a man of character that we find our purpose, which is beautiful because it means that even if we fall down, it's in the getting back up that begins to define us. And it's no longer about what we produce, but production is a byproduct of character. Who we are as men is what defines us, and that in turn defines what we produce. Not only does that provide a platform for productivity, but it actually helps you align who you are and what you want in what you create. So you don't go creating things for other people, you don't go creating things for shallow and vain outlets, but you choose careers, you choose a partner, you choose how much money you want to make based on the values that you hold within your heart. Happy is the man who is content with his place in life. And that's not to say that ambition and productivity are necessarily bad. Those things I think are vital for men to survive. But those things come after as a byproduct of who we are.